This episode of I Work for Him is brought to you by SaferNet, online at safernet.com.
Every day in America, more than 3,000 ministries are serving workplace believers by discipling Christ followers to live out their faith in their work. However, most of these organizations are working on their own, often recreating the wheel from their limited resources because they don't know there are others out there doing exactly the same thing.
I Work for Him has a vision to document the tapestry of the faith and work movement to enable and facilitate selfless kingdom collaboration across the country and bring harmony to the body of Christ in the workplace.
For more than a decade, God has been weaving the stories of workplace believers and the work of so many faith and work ministries into I Work for Him. He's been entwining us with these organizations so that you, too, can be a part of this great tapestry.
He's been connecting us in order to connect you.
Just like a tapestry, the work is sometimes messy and takes time. But in the end, a beautiful, unified picture emerges, more incredible than we could ever imagine. Please be a part of that mission. You've tuned into I Work for Him, the voice of collaboration for the faith and work movement.
And we are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg, and our mission is to inspire every workplace believer to recognize their workplace as their ministry place, where they work with God every day. What can that look like in your workplace? Well, let's find out right now.
You know, it's New Year's Day, a fresh start. Every one of us loves a fresh start. But are you ready to unleash your faith at work? There's an epidemic of locked up Christianity in the workplaces of America. Did you know this? For some reason, people who call themselves followers of Jesus or Christians think that their workplace is off limits for them to live out their faith. Baloney! No one can stop you from living out your faith. Sure, in the UK, if you're caught praying silently outside of an abortion clinic, you may be arrested. But in the US, there's still protection for you to live by and celebrate your faith, even at work. No, we're not talking about pounding people over the head with a Bible all day long, but we are saying that your life at work should vibrantly represent your faith in Jesus and your holy relationship with God, and that everyone around you should be benefiting from your faith, whether they believe in Jesus or not. We're going to set you free today and remind you of the steps to transform your workplace into a mission field. Happy New Year from Martha and I, and may 2025 be the single most transformational living out your faith at work year ever.
That's awesome, Jim. I am looking forward to 2025, and Happy New Year's to everybody.
So, Martha, when we got married in 1986, yes, for those of you listening that are younger, yes, it was a long time ago. Did you ever imagine 39 years later we'd be inspiring workplace believers to live out their faith at work?
No, because at that point, we didn't even really understand that ourselves. We were still in this mindset that we had dedicated our lives to full-time Christian ministry as teenagers, and that meant that someday we would get enough training so that we could work for a church or an organization living out our faith and our work in ministry that was only nonprofit to the church. Like we didn't think about it being in what ended up being our insurance agency and our car dealership and the different businesses that we have run consulting over the years. So no, that many years ago, I don't even want to repeat that number. That was not the mindset that we had. So it really wasn't on our trajectory.
When we both graduated from college, we thought that we would then, in fact, I enrolled in seminary right away after we got out of college, because we thought that when we committed our lives to full-time Christian ministry, that it meant that we would one day be working in a church or on the foreign mission field or something. But yet we were entrepreneurs. We had an insurance career. We started an insurance agency from scratch. And what really kept us from living out our faith in our work is that nobody could communicate to us. We had this call on our lives for ministry, yet we also had an entrepreneurial call, and nobody could help us reconcile that well, really, it was dissenting voices in our heads. Because one said, hey, quit your job, go work in a church. The other said, don't quit your job. I gave you business skills for a reason.
Right. We constantly struggled with that. And okay, so here's a couple things I just now thought of. We didn't have the internet, believe it or not.
No, Al Gore hadn't created it yet.
Yes. So, you were still learning about, doing your computer science degree using dial-up, wired, all that kind of stuff. So we have the ability to learn at a much faster pace what other people are learning because we have access to it immediately. When this interview, it's not an interview today because we're talking to each other.
I'm interviewing you. You better answer the questions right.
But when we have this conversation and it goes out on the internet, people immediately can get caught up on the conversation as opposed to finding a book or a magazine article or whatever it used to be that, would be the lessons we would learn and it would give us new ideas. So things have sped up so much that, back then there weren't these conversations. And if there were, it was maybe very hard to find, and it would be in a printed magazine 9 months later when somebody decided to write out the interview or whatever it might be. So, we're just in a very different place right now, which is so exciting because now more and more people are learning that their workplace is their mission field.
And when you realize that, when you say the words, hey, I think I'm going to quit my job and go into full-time ministry because I just want my work to matter. Let me tell you right now, your work matters to God.
Yeah.
And there are literally thousands of organizations that can help you dig deeper into understanding your faith as it relates to your work. But the bottom line is this: God's given you skills. He didn't give those skills to you to waste them by going to work in a church. He gave you those skills to be a blessing to the community that you work in. He gave you those skills to be a blessing to the state that you work in, the city that you live in, the neighborhood that you live in. He gave you those skills to be a blessing to your customers and your vendors. He gave you those skills to be a blessing to your employees, if you've got employees, whatever it may be. That was on purpose. Martha, do you remember?
Hang on. I want to just clarify one thing.
Hang on.
That does not mean for the people working in a church or an organization that they're wasting their skills. As long as it's the skills that God gave them, they're using them. Like what you're talking about is if you're a really good accountant and you go to work in an organization where you're supposed to only be an evangelist, and that is not the gifting that God gave you, then you're working outside of the gifting that God has given you. So I just wanted to clarify that because obviously we need administrative assistance in the church.
But wait a minute, because let me just say you're a really good accountant.
Yeah.
And you're tempted to go take an accounting job at a church, yet you have 1,000 clients. And those 1,000 clients are their only hope of ever learning about Jesus is you because you're their accountant and bookkeeper.
Oh, I totally agree.
And so if you quit your job and go work in a church, all of a sudden now you're surrounded by Jesus followers, and all of those people may never hear about Jesus because you quit your job because you want to have your work matter when your work matters because those customers need to hear from you.
But we also want churches to have really good accountants, Jim. So put that in perspective, we need someone to be a really good accountant in the church so that they don't screw things up. So there is a calling, but it doesn't mean every good accountant needs to go work in the church. So God has a direction for everybody's life.
Okay, so let me just say it this way. You're sitting still right where you are. Listen to me. Wherever you're at in your job.
They might be driving.
Okay, well, if you're driving, you're sitting still. You're sitting still if you're driving.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, most people aren't using pedals. The Fred Flintstone cars aren't around anymore. All right, so where you're working today, just ask yourself this question. Are there people around you who need to meet Jesus? If the answer is yes, you're right where you need to be. It is your workplace mission field. If you quit your job, those people may never meet Jesus. Now, you may not have the mindset that you being Jesus to those people. Well, that's what needs to work on. That's what needs to change.
True.
And we encourage you to go out to the I Work For Him website, iworkforhim.com. That's him.com, and click on the I Work For Him Nation. Join the nation, and that's exactly how you could turn your workplace into a mission field, because it is critical that you are intentional in living out your faith. Not Bible thumping, but living out your faith. Martha, we've gotten over this feeling second tier, because we used to feel second tier, that because we didn't respond to that call to full-time ministry in a church or on the foreign mission field, we felt second best because we were just business people. What a horrible thing that was to speak over anybody. You're just a business person. Let me remind you, people, Jesus was a business person. So was Abraham. So was David. So was Daniel. Business people, managing money. Jesus managed a family business. We don't criticize business people. That's what makes the world go round. Government entities don't generate cash. Businesses generate cash. Businesses generate jobs. Governments just suck money out of the businesses and employ people that way, but they don't generate anything. You as a business owner, or if you're working for a business or an organization that generates anything, you're a gift to your community. You're a gift to the economy. Just keep that in mind.
You feel better now?
I do. I just want, we've got such a messed up view of all of this, and we need to recognize.
But there are people that get it. And that's the exciting thing, is that we're no longer in a place where we're the only ones having this conversation. And so I love that we have the ability to speak into those that may not yet get it and be reminded that every day you wake up with a mission field around you that's just waiting to hear about Jesus.
Well, let me just ask this question, though. You spent a year in Venezuela as a missionary with your parents.
As a teenager.
In 10th grade, your
Yes.
10th grade year. Did you feel top tier then? Did you feel like, yes, I've made it, I'm a missionary?
No, because I think the reality is like many jobs, people don't see what really happens. And being a missionary is incredibly hard. It is incredibly hard, raising the money, leaving your family, going somewhere, because we were in a foreign mission field, doing the things that God's called you to do, but in a very different environment than you've ever been in before. So I know we've met many. So anyway, no, we've met many missionaries, Jim, that were like, it was way harder to raise a family as missionaries in a foreign country. So we don't always see that peek behind the curtain, but never did I ever feel like, oh, we're the most select among the Christians or anything like that. But my parents didn't show us that either. What about for you? Okay, so I want to talk about this real quick before we talk about our first mention of the day. But when we decided that we felt the call on our lives to become full-time Christian in ministry as teenagers, you thought that meant you were going to lead a church and preach every Sunday. But instead, we have now produced almost 3,000 podcasts, and you have those under your belt. Would you have, I think in calculations, you'd have probably been in your 80s before you'd have preached that many sermons in your life. How do you reconcile that? Well, how are you feeling about, the voice that God's given you through podcasting instead of preaching?
It's amazing. I mean, I never really expected it. I mean, for either of us. Well, first of all, remember I had to drag you into this podcast world back in 2015, but or 2014. I'm grateful that we are where we're at and they have the privilege of speaking into people, and God has moved in our lives in an amazing way. I mean, in so many amazing ways. We're grateful to be here. I've gotten to preach here in Marionville, Missouri. I've gotten to preach 4 times in the last year, and I've really had a great time doing it, but it's a lot of work. It's more work than doing a podcast. I don't know.
But you're not afraid of work.
I'm not afraid of work. All right. But everybody, listen, Happy New Year, everybody. Maybe I got a little bit on some tangents, some strong tangents. I just want you to realize how important you are to God's plan on this planet. He wants you right where you're at. Are you excited to flip the calendar, though, to a new year? I mean, actually, do any of you actually have even a real calendar that's not on your computer? Martha had a calendar designed for my mom for Christmas with a bunch of our family photos on it. I know that will be on her kitchen table all year long, tracking her appointments for things like that, because my mom loves paper. Hi, Mom. So as we look to the new year, I'd like to invite you into something new for 2025. Will you join the team of I Work for Him as a partner? Your monthly gift will help reveal the truth about our workplace mission field to millions of believers who are going to work every day and that are missing the privilege of recognizing that their workplace calling is right in front of them. Visit iworkforhim.com/donate and become a part of our team. And we'd love to send you a set of our books when you set up a monthly donation. You can give purpose to work in 2025. That's iworkforhim.com/donate. All right, Martha, you worked in a church for 10 years. Wasn't it easier for you to live out your faith at work there?
I think it was really good practice, actually, because I knew I was in a safe environment where that was allowed. All of the preconceived notions that people have that aren't really true about being worried about sharing your faith at work. I really got to practice that. So I see it as a blessing, but I don't think it was any easier. In fact, sometimes it's more challenging because everyone just assumes that everybody's a believer, and you might make decisions that are not biblical or that are not God honoring, and having to stand up for that and really be proactive in those conversations is a little bit more challenging in an environment where you just kind of make some assumptions that are maybe not valid. All right. So, Jim, what shifted us as a couple? What moved us from realizing that after those 20 years of pursuing full-time ministry, when we didn't actually, flip the switch and start working for a church or anything like that, that we realized that we were in ministry all along in our work?
So it was great. A buddy of mine, well, first of all, somebody gave me the book Halftime.
Yeah.
Which is the first time I read that my work could have significance in my success. And then that same buddy, Bob Cater from Atlanta, Georgia, who now lives in Venice, Florida, he sent me a devotion written by Oz Hillman. It's still available today. Today, God is First devotions. And it told me that my work mattered to God, that I didn't have to quit my job to go work in full-time in a church or on a mission field. And it was that realization that, well, that's why I've been called to do what I'm doing. I'm good at insurance. I was great at selling used cars, which we did at the same time, by the way, that I actually was pretty good with the computer hardware. And you were good at retail, Christian retail. And all of those things make sense it makes sense. God put us there. So what was it like for you to walk alongside me as we're realizing this stuff going, hey, the pressure's off. We don't need to quit our jobs to go work in a church, although we still wanted to. Oh, and you were working at a church then. Yes.
And it is ministry no matter where you work. But for me, it was, I think in any truly healthy relationship as a married couple, when one is learning a truth and the other is getting to walk that out, it's a beautiful thing. So for me, it was great because it was just like this. Number one, it was a release from feeling like we were failing in our obligation that we'd, committed to the Lord. It was like, we are not failing in that. We're living it out, and we didn't even realize it. So in fact, that became a big relief. So we could live in freedom.
Absolutely.
We do serve an amazing God, and we constantly get the opportunity to learn new truths, like living out your faith in your work where you are. In 2025, I'm inviting each of you to engage in some of the truths that we've learned about the companies that sponsor I Work for Him. SaferNet can protect your computers. Patriot Mobile can provide your cell phone service. ePayments can make your payment processor, and there's so much more. I want to encourage you to visit our sponsor page and engage with these companies in 2025. I know that you'll be happy that you did, and you can just go to iworkforhim.com/sponsors.
All right. Now, to start off our year solid, let's just review with everyone the I Work for Him Nation pledge. And God revealed this to me back in 2006 as I was driving 90 miles to work, and as I realized that my workplace was my mission field. This is a guaranteed method. No money back guarantee. I mean, all your money back guarantee. Oh, yeah, you're not paying any money. If you really want to start looking at your workplace like a mission field, this is the guaranteed way to do that. Mm-hmm. And it's 5 simple steps. Period. End of story. And you'll start seeing yourself as a minister in your mission field of your workplace. All right. It starts with this. Simple. Start praying for those people that you work alongside each and every day, whether it's your coworkers, your bosses, the people that you have contact with on a regular basis. Start praying for them by name every day.
And that is such a beautiful thing, and nobody even needs to know you're doing it at the beginning. This is a heart change for each one of us.
Right, and then as you do it and you find opportunities, you can bring it up in conversation. I've been praying for you. Is there anything specific I could pray about for you? But as you're praying for them, try to find out if they've got a spouse or a significant other, find out that person's name. And if they've got children, find their children's names. so that you're praying for the whole family unit. But then when you have an opportunity to pray for them, say, is there something specific I can be praying about for you? I mean, that's the intro to all of this. But if you're praying for people, it doesn't change them. It changes you. It shapes your heart to look at them the way our Heavenly Father looks at them. That's huge.
And then the next step of this process is just to learn ways that you can serve the people around you in your work, going above and beyond what you're expected to do every day. Because there's no greater impact on somebody than you taking that step of service and them saying, why are you helping me? But that is a way to love on people like no other.
And look for ways to befriend people outside of the workplace. We have workplace friends, but they become real friends when you do something with them after work. And so we suggest, if let's just say you're a married person, inviting people over to your home for a meal, because there's nothing more powerful than having somebody sit around your kitchen table and share a meal. That's not the case for all of you, but maybe you could just go out for dinner with somebody. If you're a guy and your coworker's a woman and you're not married, it may seem like a date, so you might want to make it a group activity.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You don't have to be married to have them over for dinner, but make it co-ed so that it's not an inappropriate
right. But you're
gathering.
looking for ways to befriend them, because when they experience your friendship outside of work, they have a chance to hear your real story, who Jesus really is in your life.
And as you continue to build that relationship with them, then you're going to get to the point where you're going to be able to pray with them about things.
Well, how would that work, Martha?
Well, you've built this relationship. You know their family. You know what they're going through. You've spent time with them outside of work. And then you can say, what?
And you know what their demeanor is on a regular basis.
You do. So when you see them struggling with something, or they actually share it with you and just say, hey, I'm going through this, or I have this thing coming up in my life, you can actually stop and pray with them.
Here's how that works.
How does that work, Jim?
Hey, thanks for sharing that with me. Well, actually, here's what it starts off with. You say, hey, because you notice that they're down a little bit. Their demeanor's a little changed. You say, how are you doing today? When they answer fine, you say, really? Freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional? No, really, how are you doing? And then they share with you. Shut up while they're sharing. And when they're done sharing, just say, hey, thanks for sharing that with me. Can I pray with you about that right now? I've never had anybody tell me no.
Yes. And it is okay to do this at work. Now, don't waste your employer's time, but honestly, just feeding into other people and loving on them and praying with them is so powerful. And then the last thing that we encourage people to do is to work with excellence. There is nothing worse than breaking a reputation by being lazy and late and not getting your work done and not turning things in on time. All of those speak so negatively to something that you're trying to be a positive influence and impact on your coworkers and employer and all of those people. So
people are watching because they know you're a Jesus follower. They're expecting you to be different than everybody else.
Yes. So work with excellence in all that you do. Because
all of that other stuff will be exemplified after you work with excellence. If you don't work with excellence, people will doubt that your faith is even real. It just makes up a difference. So you're praying with people, you're serving them over and above, you're befriending them outside of the workplace, you're praying with people when you get that opportunity, but overall, you are a person of excellence in your workplace, the best and the brightest in your position, in your organization. That's the I Work for Him Nation pledge. It's between you and God, but it's going to transform your workplace into a mission field.
You can find out about that on our website, iworkforhim.com/join the nation. I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Hey, a couple of things coming up here in 2025, as we have literally on I Work for Him, just that title alone, we produced about 2,100 shows. And we've got I Retire for Him shows and She Works for Him shows and the I Work for Him Power Thought. And we also produce shows for Faith Wins and the Digital Desperado show. And we've done, we helped somebody start the God is the Issue podcast. We've done a lot of different podcasts. And locally, we do the Good Place Marionville podcast. If you want to hear what's going on here locally in our little town of Marionville, Missouri, just look up Good Place Marionville on YouTube or on Facebook. But in 2025, we spent the last 11 and a half years interviewing people, capturing their stories of living out their faith in their work. But in 2025, we want to shift that a little bit to having more conversations with people. Martha and I have learned so much from so many people, thousands of people over the last 11 and a half years, that we're going to start having some deeper discussions, diving deep, finding people that want to have conversations with us about a certain topic, all relating to living out our faith in our work. So look for to be a little bit different format as we head into 2025. And will it always be predictable? I don't think so.
It's Jim and Martha, after all. It's not predictable.
Do you have any dreams for us as a couple in 2025?
Sitting on the front porch is nice.
It is nice. A little cold right now, though. A little cold right now. One of the things we're trying to do for Martha and I is to do a little bit less. We've gotten very plugged into our great little town here in Marionville, Missouri. And we've also done several construction projects. We're working right now on The Gathering, which will be a coffee shop here in Marionville, Missouri. You'll have to stop by and see it one day. It'll be just as cool as driving to Magnolia in Waco, Texas. It'll just be The Gathering in Marionville, Missouri. We're just trying to find a little peace. We're caregiving stage with my parents and Martha's mom, and we're taking care of kids and, remotely and just being parents and taking care of people here in town. We're looking to have a little bit more margin. Not margarine, because that's bad for you. Butter's way better. All right. To 2025, whatever you have for us, Father, we're going to take it, and we're going to run with it, and we're grateful. And to all of you listening, Happy New Year. You've been listening to I Work for Him with your host, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers, and our workplace is definitely our mission field, but ultimately, I work for Him.
This episode of I Work for Him is brought to you by SaferNet, online at safernet.com.
Calling all entrepreneurs and parents. Protecting those we love on the internet is important. Safeguard your ventures and loved ones with SaferNet VPN. Our cybersecurity app keeps you safe on any device. Shield your business from cyber threats while ensuring a family-friendly online environment. Simplify your digital life with SaferNet VPN today. Get secured now. Sign up at safernet.com. That's safernet.com.
Did you know that God has a calling on your life? It's true. He's called you to bring Jesus to the world. For some, that may look like a pulpit or a foreign mission field, but for most of us, it looks like a construction site, a cubicle, a hospital, or a classroom. Wherever it is that you work, live, volunteer, and invest, that is your mission field. To learn more about integrating your faith into your work and retirement, check out our books, I Work for Him, She Works for Him, and I Retire for Him, by going to iworkforhim.com/bookstore.
Thanks for listening to the I Work for Him podcast with your host, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work for Him Nation, or subscribe to our weekly blog. You can also follow us on social media at I Work for Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's at I Work for Him and online at iworkforhim.com. I work, the number 4, him.com.